coming up to 2 o'clock. No, we don't.
Department of Agriculture's inaugural farmers market on the National Mall. Allison Steinberg was there for the first day, where she talked to farmers and laid out the goals of the farmers market. Take a listen.
Hold up.
Multiple cabinet members and Trump administration officials visited the market, including Small Business Administrator Kelly Loeffler, who reaffirmed the focus on small farmers with USDA Secretary Rollins. But is this so? Is it really for small farmers? Regenerative farmer Steve Jarvis was there, and he joins us now. Steve, it's good to see you. All right, let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. All right.
We have
Steve,
him.
it's good. Okay, Steve, it's good to see you.
Yeah.
Little technical difficulties this morning. It's been a morning of technical difficulties all morning. It's good to see you, Steve. So you did go to the farmers market, and the secretary and the small business administrator continually said that this was for small businesses, small farmers, right, which are essentially small businesses, the independent farmer. What were your takeaways?
So actually, I wasn't present at the farmers market. I had people that were there, and they took pictures of like things that were there, and I things like that. And it looks like about the percentage of farmers that are about left in America. That's what it really looks like, and it's not many. So these farmers market are just they sell everything at them now, and really and truthfully, if you go look at the picture that. Brooke Rollins is standing in front of this giant tractor. It's a Caterpillar track tractor. This tractor is not used in small ag at all. It's used for giant ag only. And let me just tell you, I tried to get a price on that tractor, and it's by call-in quote only. So what I did is I went back and looked up to see what a used tractor, that tractor that she's standing in front of, in 2016, that tractor used, you can buy one used right now for a small fee of $269,700. So if you want to know, no small farm, nobody that farms 40 acres is buying that tractor. No, it's nothing about the small farm.
Were there any? I did like that they did this farmers market on the National Mall. Okay, I thought it was really cool. I thought it was an excellent opportunity. Were there some good points from it?
I want people to be educated about, and there's a picture of my tractor. That's a used tractor for it's about I paid $15,000 for it. But what you have to understand is I hate to break this to everybody, but when you go to these farmers market, if you want to find out if a farmer is real, what you want to do, the trash bin tells the story of every farmer. So what you do is you go behind the scenes, behind the tents, you go back in behind there, and you look at the boxes and see if they have boxes in there, and they have these little round little stickers, and these little round little stickers will be stuck all on the inside of these boxes. And these are the little stickers that you see at the grocery store. And what that farmer has done is he is actually misrepresenting agriculture and farming, because what he did is he bought all that produce at a wholesale market. I've watched this, and I will tell you this: in the state of Texas, where I'm from, I'm in Idaho now, but where I'm from, 85% of the farmers markets in the farmer stands that you drive by on the highway, if you want to find out if they're real, they're not, because you go in there and look in their trash bin. And that's what this thing is. Yeah. Is it a great idea to have a farmer's market and put on national event. Yes, it is, but it's a mirage. It's not true. Brooke Rollins is not doing anything for the small farmer. I'm headed back to DC next week, and I got really, really, really bad news this morning. Very bad. It's the worst news that could possibly happen with RFK and connecting me to the USDA. It's the worst news ever.
Okay, and we're going to get into that in a moment because that is breaking news. I have shared that on my X. We'll get into that in just a short moment. I want to finish up where we are right now. First off, I'll ask you, why are you going to DC next week? Are you at liberty to say? I'm sure you have meetings there.
Yeah, so, well, some of my meetings just got canceled for what just happened today. But I will tell you this, I'm going to speak at the Heritage Foundation. We're going to talk about Joe Salden will be there. There's a lot of other farmers going to be there, but we're going to talk about solving, farming and the food problems in America. That we're having a round table, and we're going to, and Heritage Foundation is putting this on. I'm going to be there, and then the next day I have a couple different meetings with American First Policy. I'm trying to get a meeting with Secretary Brooke Rollins, USDA head there. I'm trying to get a meeting with her, but the problem is it seems like she doesn't really want to talk to the real farmers. I wrote a farm plan for the entire United States of America to create 40 acre farms, 1 million new 40-acre farms, and 10,000 processing plants. And I have $2 billion in order to even crank this up. If Miss Rollins will do something, but I can't get even a meeting. And don't you find it ironic? Don't you find it ironic that RFK, Secretary Kennedy, came to my farm? They shot video here, and you didn't realize that it's been 2 weeks and they still are not putting that video out? Do you find that very strange? It's very strange.
That is very odd. That is extremely odd. And like I said, we're going to get into maybe more of why that's happening in just a moment. Real quick, I want to ask you, since you're going to talk about solving problems for the independent farmer and regenerative farming at the Heritage Foundation next week, but specifically solving problems, our very own Allison Steinberg has a problem she would love to be solved as it relates to farming and raw milk. Take a listen to what she asked one farmer at the USDA Farmers Market this week. Listen.
It's an exciting week here in D.C. as the work continues to make America healthy again. The USDA is kicking off a week-long celebration of food, family, and farming with live music, farm fresh eats, and fun for all ages. The Great American Farmers Market, taking place right here on the National Mall in D.C., aims to unite farmers, ranchers, and producers to show.
All right, well, that wasn't the right thought, but that's okay. She's concerned about why it's so hard to access raw milk.
Well, I can tell you why it's hard to access raw milk, because what people don't realize is about raw milk. So I've welded a lot in my life, and I've welded on commercial jobs. I actually welded for the Army Corps of Engineers for 8 years, and sometimes we'd weld galvanized metal. Well, galvanized metal, if you don't have the right ventilation, which we always tried to have, you get zinc poisoning, which is a heavy metal zinc poisoning. And what people don't realize is welders who have zinc poisoning, it makes them very sick. Do you know what you use to get rid of that? We would drink raw milk, and raw milk would get rid of that in about an hour to 2 hours. You'd be completely well. And don't you find it interesting? All over, they won't let raw milk out. What if raw milk is what would remove heavy metals out of children? Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm just telling you, I know that I've used it on myself with things that are toxic in my bloodstream, sick and well in a matter of hours. So raw milk is, and I drank raw milk my entire youth growing up. We got it straight out of the tank, straight out of the dairy. And listen, if there was anything going to kill you from raw milk, it would have killed me a long time ago.
Well, I hope we resolve that. I know Allison would be very excited about that. So let's get to the breaking news we have, and that is that a senior advisor named Gray Delaney to HHS Secretary Robert Kennedy, who's very hardline about the mRNA technology, and who is very pro independent regenerative farmer. In fact, he was the one who set up the trip to your farm with Secretary Kennedy, the visit that they have yet to post online. It was amazing footage. I've seen some of it. Really cool footage, okay, that has not made it to social media. He has been pushed out. He's been forced to resign. I literally found this out before we went to air. I have posted it to my ex. We'll show that tweet in just a moment. His name is Gray Delaney. He was a senior advisor at HHS, very much in line. He is the genesis. Yeah, I mean, he is the nexus of the MAGA coalition. He's the embodiment of it. What happened, Steve? Sounds like you know more than I do.
Yeah, well, I can tell you. I'm going to tell you I'm a good person to write. You know, we live in this chaotic time, and I write solutions, and I write out here's the problem and here's the plan. I'm going to tell you the problem, and I'm going to tell you the solution in this short little video right here that we're doing live on news. When they came and videoed here at my farm, Gray Delaney was here, and Stephanie Spears was here, and Stephanie's been with RFK for a long time, and Stephanie would not allow Gray to shoot a video with RFK and myself talking about regenerative farm. I don't use herbicides. I don't use glyphosate. Talking about my 40-acre farm plan. I actually gave my 40-acre farm plan to RFK. And not only that, RFK, he is the first person in the federal government who received the Mystic bill that stops weather modification over all 50 states. So he had the whole entire farm plan and also the weather modification plan and about it. And Stephanie Spears would not allow to shoot this short clip, because I said we need a short clip to pop on Instagram, because we live in a 4-second society, and this will boost the morale of the Maha base, and they'll be excited, and they'll realize that HHS is doing something. And Stephanie Spears just undermined that. Stephanie Spears needs to resign today, and they need to put Gray Delaney in her spot. Gray Delaney is the reason that I have a voice in Washington, D.C. Gray Delaney is the reason that RFK came to my farm, and Stephanie Spears is undermining what RFK is doing, and I am calling for her resignation, because this hurts me as a young farmer. I'm losing traction and I'm losing my voice. And not only that, I have an underground team of people who've been working on weather modification that are they know everything A to Z, and I just connected them to Gray Delaney. We all gained trust with one another, and they have now my underground team, who is now exposed. They know who they are, and Stephanie Spears has them. I'll tell you something. If anything happens to any of my team, there's going to be a big problem. And I will tell you this: Gray Delaney is the one that was going to get weather modification stopped, and RFK was with it. And Stephanie Spears says that RFK is the one that fired. You know, it's nonsense. There's no way. Stephanie Spears is the problem.
Yeah. I mean, it was RFK who personally wanted to hire Gray Delaney. I think we need to hear from RFK on this issue, because now this is two people who've been forced out in a matter of a couple weeks that were very anti-mRNA technology, right? And then Gray obviously is very pro independent farmer. As you said, he was bringing in people to work on the weather modification issue. And Bobby Kennedy has signaled that's something that is important to him. But it sounds like gatekeeping. And we see this a lot in administrations, and you're calling for the resignation of Stephanie Spears. We'll see. We're going to keep on this story. We're going to follow this story, and hopefully we'll hear from Bobby Kennedy himself, Steve.
SAS-USA.com. That's my website. I have a free book on joy. You're going to need it for what in America right now. Everybody, it's a PDF. It's a book on joy, and you're going to need it. SAS.USA.com. And listen, I'm sorry about Gray Delaney. I know he's a good guy, and listen, we need him in Washington, D.C. He understands what's happening to small ag, and he understands what's happening to weather modification, and he was my inroad to Secretary Kennedy, and this hurts me and all farmers across America very, very bad, and that's not helping us at all.
Exactly. Okay, Steve, again, your website is SAS-USA.com, SAS-USA.com. It's a great resource. When you go there, there's lots of tutorials. You can sign up to learn how to do regenerative farming yourself and take your future in your own hands as a farmer. And I think that's really amazing. Thank you, Steve. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
Up next, we continue to cover HHS with Dr. Steve Hatfield after the break.
With everybody talking about making America healthy again, I thought today'd be a great day to talk to all my fellow patriots about the importance of making your homes healthy again. Well, we have proudly partnered with airwaterhealing.com and their revolutionary whole home air purification system. The V3 from Air Water Healing does 3,000 square feet of purification. It eliminates dust, mold, viruses, and odors. But here's the part I love. They require no filters to ever be changed and virtually no maintenance. Whether you suffer from asthma, allergies, seasonal bronchitis, or just want to protect your family from the flu or even greater threats, don't wait to get your V3 from airwaterhealing.com today. Use code Lindell for 20% off in savings and free shipping. That's promo code Lindell at airwaterhealing.com.
All right, the Health and Human Services Secretary has cut $500 million worth of federal funding for mRNA vaccine research, and with good reason. As we've documented for years on this program, mRNA is not a viable source of vaccination against any illness. Instead, it is an amplifier of illness. Indeed, the eggheads at DARPA believe that mRNA is the newest platform to wage biological warfare. That's right, it is a bioweapon. The Dark Lords over at Moderna describe mRNA in the strangest ways, too. To them, it's not just a vaccine. According to them, quote, the mRNA vaccine injects an quote unquote operating system into your body that they call the software of life. Meanwhile, leading voices in the MAHA movement that catapulted RFK Jr. to his current position with the express mandate of ending these unwanted vaccines only terminated 22 of them. The Twitter user at TPV_John writes, quote, BARDA is currently working on over 400 or so different mRNA-based products. So is this good news that the HHS is canceling $500 million worth of mRNA research, or is this just a distraction for the fact that real changes are not yet underway in Kennedy's department? To help us answer these questions is the Chief Medical Officer for the Department of Health and Human Services and a senior advisor as well to RFK Jr., Dr. Stephen Hatfield. Dr. Hatfield, it's good to see you. I know that was a little bit of a critical opening, but all of us want to know. I mean, we just really want to know what's going on.
Yeah, I've wanted to know what's going on for years, during the Biden administration.
Yeah.
Operation Warp Speed was a necessity. When it started, we were faced with catastrophic casualty figures from inaccurate modeling to the point where it would interfere with the infrastructure of America's 120 largest cities. So, yes, by all means, it was the necessary and correct thing to do. But we always understood that it would be very, very, very closely monitored, like patient by patient, routinely. And under the Biden administration, when the vaccines really got rolling, this never happened. And it got even worse as the new team, the Biden administration, took over. Adverse events started being covered up. And by, I would say, April, I was calling for the withdrawal of these things, for an urgent halt. And of course, I wasn't in any position to do anything. But they should have been withdrawn about that time, at least for a safety pause. And there was a brief one, but they reinitiated it. There was nothing we could really do until enough adverse events had been reported that advanced meta-analysis techniques could be used to analyze the data. And that was in 2021. And when that came out for 2022, the benefit to risk ratio of taking a COVID-19 vaccine, the benefit was negative. It was safer to catch COVID-19 and be hospitalized with it than it was to take one of these messenger RNA vaccines. Chiefly Moderna and Pfizer had the market share for this. And there was nothing we could do. We couldn't get on news programs. We couldn't, One American News and some of the others covered this, but it was impossible to actually reach the American people outside of blogs and things like this. So going over this meta-analysis data, it was clear that this had to be stopped. And there's a new sheriff in town. It's President Trump, it's Secretary Kennedy, and it's my boss, John Knox at Asper. And everyone went over the data and agreed that this had to be stopped. It's focused on the messenger RNA vaccines. I mean, we don't have enough time to go into the details, but if you can show the book, this is sort of the Bible of vaccine harm. It's called COVID-19 Vaccine Injury, and it features 700 peer-reviewed research medical papers that were used to make the decision. Now, there's some other mRNA projects out there involving cancer and what we call inborn errors of metabolism. These are poor infants that have been born lacking an enzyme or another genetic part of their DNA. And these weren't touched. The immediate goal was to stop messenger RNA vaccine research. It doesn't work. And it doesn't matter what messenger RNA insert you to the vector. It's the sheer rush of millions of RNA molecules into all your tissues. It's not just your immune system. It goes to your brain, it goes to your liver, your spleen, your kidneys, everywhere. And this tremendous rush of messenger RNA molecules overloads the cellular machinery. It causes improper protein formation, activates, we think, tumor suppressor genes are disrupted. It's a biochemical havoc is what's caused by this. So all research into the messenger RNA, and there were more things. This was running unregulated under the Biden administration. There were self-amplifying messenger RNA vaccines under development, and the big pharma didn't care. The safety studies, when we went back because of lawsuits, Judicial Watch, America's First Legal, and others, including the Japanese government, sued Pfizer to grab their clinical trial data. And these vaccines never showed that they prevented disease, that you still could get infected. They didn't stop transmission. And there was no evidence that they ever caused less severe disease. In fact, by 2023, the majority of people that were in hospital and dying were vaccinated and boosted. So was it necessary to try? Absolutely. In 2020, in March, it was Armageddon predictions. Now the virus has mutated since then and got milder. But again, we always thought the utmost care would be taken by the federal health agencies and Dr. Fauci, and it wasn't.
It wasn't.
And it got worse under the Biden administration because now it was mandated and coerced. That whole 4 years, 2021 to 4, is a nightmare. Now we have new leadership,
we know so
and
much
we're
about
able
the
to do
mRNA
something.
now and how it works, Dr. Hatfill. Can you just clarify if they have ended? Are there really 400 different projects working on mRNA technology that are funded? I know that Secretary Kennedy ended 22, and that's wonderful. But
Yeah.
are there still hundreds outlying?
There's
Continuing?
not that I'm aware of. There's
Okay.
some smaller projects working on Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, which is a terrible affliction. It's a genetic.
Yeah.
One of the enzymes isn't right. And there's a couple other projects. In fact, a couple of them are looking like they may be doing something. But it's experimental interfering RNA. This is something we know nothing about. And with respect to long-term effects, you're trying to reprogram Mother Nature. And Mother Nature has many years of trial and error to make humans. It's not a good idea. We're not involved in that. Our goal at ASPR is readiness and response. This is truly getting rid of these messenger RNA vaccines was truly make America healthy again. We're all proud to have done something for that.
And Secretary Kennedy is still completely committed to getting rid of the mRNA vaccines.
Yes. Yeah, well,
Okay.
The funding's over. There's a couple that have snuck through, but we're trying to get the word out. And can somebody put the book up?
Speaking of that, I love that you're out doing interviews because this is what we need to hear, right? I think this is so good for the American public. I actually saw your interview on Steve Bannon, who's also on this network, and it was great. And speaking of getting the information to the public, will you all be releasing more detailed explanations defending the decision?
Yeah, there's some press releases, and I've written several papers. It's with Miss Spear at the moment, but going into more detail and with some references. If it's electronic, you can click on it. It'll take you right to the paper. So, we'll see if those come out. We hope so.
So you've written them and we're just waiting for them to be released. Is that what you're saying? From HHS? Yeah,
for the go ahead. Yeah. There's a couple up on my website. Dr. Stephen Hatfill with a V, Stephen HATFILL.com. And you can see some of the fighting that was going on all throughout 21, 22, where we were trying to shut this down. And especially, the inclusion of children was not warranted. Children don't have the same number of viral receptors in their upper airway. And very, very few children have died from COVID-19. Usually it was in association with some really severe comorbidities like leukemia or something like that. So this wasn't really a risk population. There was no reason. And pregnant mothers being mandated to get the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology are still, I think, last I looked, recommending getting a COVID shot. You don't do this while you're pregnant. HHS took away their approval for that. And the vaccine nanoparticles in mouse and rat studies, these vaccine particles are getting through to the fetus. So this is something that I think Michigan is still vaccinating pregnant women. This is something that has to be halted immediately.
It does have to be halted immediately, and I think that there might need to be more robust messaging on that directly from HHS and Secretary Kennedy. And I think releasing the papers you've written for public consumption would be very helpful. Finally, and we're running out of time, Dr. Hatfield, but it's lovely to talk to you. We're so glad because we need to hear directly from the people at HHS. I truly believe it matters a lot to the American people. We are a little bit concerned about recent firings of people who are very anti-mRNA technology. You probably can't comment, but should we be concerned?
Not something I know a lot about.
Yeah.
The gentleman that was on the program before me, that's the gentleman that brought me on, to Steve Bannon.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I tried phoning him like this morning and nobody picks up.
Yeah.
So,
well, look, we're glad that there was some move made on ending the funding for 22 of those projects related to mRNA. But I think we need to just, if there is stuff going on at the agency that, the department that the American people would be, glad of, we need to just hear more. We need to know more what's going on, and we need to get more information. So we'll keep a lookout. Let us know if they put your papers online. We'll share those with our audience because they're very well read. They love all the information they can consume. And we have a very savvy audience, Dr. Hatfield, and we appreciate you being with us.
It's a pleasure serving this country, really. We take it serious.
I know you do, and we appreciate you, Dr. Hatfield. Attorney General Pam Bondi made a major announcement yesterday to little fanfare related to the transnational criminal otherwise known as the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro. Listen.
Today, the Department of Justice and State Department are announcing a historic $50 million reward for information leading to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro. Maduro uses foreign terrorist organizations like TDA, Sinaloa, and Cartel of the Suns to bring deadly drugs and violence into our country. To date, the DEA has seized 30 tons of cocaine linked to Maduro and his associates, with nearly 7 tons linked to Maduro himself, which represents a primary source of income for the deadly cartels based in Venezuela and Mexico. Cocaine is often laced with fentanyl, resulting in the loss and destruction of countless American lives. The DOJ has seized over $700 million of Maduro-linked assets, including 2 private jets, 9 vehicles, and more. Yet Maduro's reign of terror continues. He is one of the largest narco-traffickers in the world and a threat to our national security. Therefore, we've doubled his reward to $50 million. Under President Trump's leadership, Maduro will not escape justice, and he will be held accountable for his despicable crimes. If you have any information to bring this criminal to justice, call 1-202-307-4228 or go online.
Or maybe she could watch The Absolute Truth, because remember what we've reported here exclusively on The Absolute Truth on LindellTV. Let's go through it so you can understand the broader context of what's going on here. An executive order signed by President Trump earlier in the year stated that Venezuela is a, quote, hybrid criminal state that is penetrating an invasion of a predatory incursion into the United States. Now, per my sources on the issue, Venezuela cartel is the largest in the world with oil reserves and drugs. In fact, they're at the top of the chain. These Venezuelan cartels are the ones that the smaller drug cartels take orders from. President Donald Trump also designated Tren de Aragua as a foreign terrorist organization on January the 20th, since it's, quote, conducting irregular warfare and undertaking hostile actions in the USA. It's not just a straight gang. TDA is a paramilitary wing of Venezuela's narco-terrorist regime, ran by one Nicolas Maduro. President Trump's national security officials actually got briefed as such, including the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, who received a special briefing regarding Tren de Aragua and the Venezuelan government and their ties and their funding apparatus back in April. That's why President Trump actually ordered the deportation of its members using the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Its members are foreign soldiers operating at our country in secret. Since then, TDA paramilitary units who have been deported from the USA back to Venezuela are now being sent into Europe by the Maduro regime, essentially being repurposed, per another national security source familiar talking to the absolute truth. Here's what's happening next, y'all. The next shoe to drop in Trump's war on Venezuela is that you're about to find out that Venezuelan narco-terrorists are also running our voting machines. And that's the absolute truth. Stay tuned. Up next, we go to the White House, where President Trump is set to announce a historic peace deal between Armenia and Azerbaijan. That's after the break.
Swollen limbs, joint pain, inflammation, skin aging, and cognitive decline. These are just a few of the awful side effects that you can experience due to poor blood circulation. And popping ibuprofen is not a solution to the pain. It's only temporary relief, and it's only masking the true problem, which is inflammation. Researchers are saying to add this Antarctic super nutrient to your diet. I'm talking about omega-3 fatty acids, but not just any form of omegas. These particular omega-3 fatty acids are sourced from wild-caught krill. Has been shown to support healthy blood pressure, circulation, brain health, as well as reduce inflammation, swelling, and joint pain. For a limited time, you can grab Native Path Antarctic Krill Oil for up to 66% off plus free shipping. Just go to getkrill.com/Lindell right now to get your special offer.
Big news coming out today as President Donald Trump is meeting with the leadership of Armenia and Azerbaijan as part of his overall effort to get a peace deal for the ongoing conflict between the two countries. As part of this negotiation, however, he is demanding that attorney Robert Amsterdam be allowed to help the ongoing genocide of Armenia's Christian community. Kara Castronova joins us now from the White House. We're awaiting the arrival first of the Armenian delegation. Good to see you, Kara.
Good to see you, Emerald.
That's
we are awaiting that delegation.
Right?
It's at 2:30. First, the president will meet with the Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, and I hope I'm saying that right, but that is who he's meeting with. And then they will have a bilateral signing, which the press pool will be there, so expect some interesting stuff to come out of there. And then shortly after, the president will be meeting with the president of Azerbaijan and also having a bilateral meeting. And then after that, there will be a trilateral meeting with all three where they will sign a memorandum of understanding. That's not yet a peace deal. It's a key step towards peace, obviously, but not the final deal. At the center of this is the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity, or TRIP. This is a new corridor that will be cutting through southern Armenia to link mainland Azerbaijan with its landlocked enclaves, and from there into Turkey. So this is what is on the table today, not just a peace deal, but possibly a trade route that will be very beneficial to the United States. This would basically link Central Asia to Europe without passing through Russia or Iran. Emerald.
Trade can be very persuasive, Kara, because trade was essentially at the heart of the Abraham Accords, right, which were historic during President Trump's first term. So he's seen it work in the past, yes?
Yeah, he has definitely worked in the past for President Trump. And also interesting things to come out of this trilateral meeting will be sort of the body language between the two leaders. They've met in the past, but obviously they're rivals and they're not friends. And generally when they appear in pictures together, they sort of stand a little bit far apart. So it would be interesting to watch the body language today in this trilateral meeting here at the White House. So a very full day for the president here, a very long schedule up until that final trilateral meeting and that deal signing at 4:30 p.m. today, Eastern Standard Time.
All right. Well, we'll look ahead to it. I know you'll be covering it all day on the ground there in Washington, D.C. at the White House. Thank you so much for that, Kara Castronova. We've been covering this story for a long time. It's one that's near and dear to my heart, and it just has always flabbergasted me that more outlets have not covered the Armenian situation, particularly those who are religiously aligned, Christian aligned. So I'm glad that this day has come, and I President Trump has had much success in the past during his first term brokering such deals and de-escalating conflicts, and we truly pray that that will be the case today. Thank you, Kara Castronova.
Thank you, Emerald.
Our next guest, Todd Wood, has covered this story extensively as well, reporting on how there is a systemic organized genocide of some of the world's most ancient Christian communities, all in the name of geopolitics. In fact, one of the oldest churches in the world, pictured here, is under threat of destruction because of the ongoing genocide. Now, like I said, we've been one of the only news programs consistently covering the Azerbaijan-Armenia story. And as you know, the reason the Christians of Armenia are even being threatened is because of the Zangezur corridor. This is the plan by the U.S. Turkey-Israeli alliance to break the back of Iran's economy by redirecting Azerbaijani energy flows into the Middle East and Europe away from Iranian-controlled pipelines. This corridor also threatens China's efforts to dominate the new trading routes of Eurasia. Todd Wood writes, quote, "The positioning of more American troops in Asia Minor will certainly be a risk for the United States, especially so close to Iran's border. But as we reported yesterday, the soft security guarantee may be the best option to protect Christian Armenia from a hostile neighborhood. So as part of any geopolitical deal, U.S. troops might be deployed into the region, but that would also protect the local Christians from being slaughtered. The Iranians are not having any of this, though, and it remains to be seen how Russia will take these recent developments, because according to one outlet, according to Hamidraza Azizi, that's a fellow at the German Institute for International Security Affairs, the biggest concern in Iran is that such a corridor would, once and for all, end any prospects for Iran's involvement in East-West transport. A U.S.-managed route heightens these anxieties by placing American interests directly on Iran's northern border. Now, to help us navigate these geopolitical, economic, and religious challenges in Central Asia, we do have Todd Wood. He's the editor-in-chief of CDM Press to discuss. He just returned from Armenia not long ago, so we're very pleased to have you with us, Todd. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on, Emerald. Can you hear me? I think I'm frozen on video, but
I
can you hear me okay?
We can hear you and see you, so we're thankful for that. Look,
All right, well,
I was very interested in what you wrote, because you talked about the delicate dance that the United States is going to have to do in this region, right? And you said that you said that this soft security guarantee may be the best option to protect the Christians in that region. Can you explain what a soft security guarantee actually entails and what it looks like?
Sure. I just want to take a quick step backward. You have to understand all of this in the context of the Armenian genocide 100 years ago, where over 2 million Armenians were killed by the Turks, the Young Turk government. And that still is having ramifications across the region. And you just had a war in Nagorno-Karabakh with the Azeris taking a lot more ancient Christian territory, thousands of churches that are, ancient being destroyed. I went to Echmiadzin, which was right outside the first Christian cathedral outside of the capital. There is literally what they say is the spear that stuck Christ in the side on the cross. So this is ancient history. It was brought by Bartholomew. So that is what we're seeing, what the context is of all this Muslim and Iranian effort to really just take the territory of this region and further reduce the Armenian question, as they call it. And the Turks solved the question by just killing them. We are possibly putting contractors in on this corridor, the Zangezur corridor, along the Iranian border from mainland Azerbaijan to an exclave of Azerbaijan on the other side. A lot of territorial mixes going on here. And it's going to expose a lot of Americans to risk. Armenia is a safe, peaceful country, but it's right on the Iranian border, and they have a long history of taking hostages and other things. So there is a risk, but in my view, it's worth this risk if we can secure the people on the ground, but also if we have American troops, they're not going to be attacked in Armenia, at least we think, although the Russians don't like this, as you said, or the Chinese or the Iranians.
Yeah,
okay, very good.
It poses a bit of a conundrum, doesn't it? Because President Trump's base, largely Christian, are not for ongoing conflicts, right? We're very hesitant, and we've been outspoken about the prospect of a direct conflict with Iran or putting troops anywhere. So given that, how do we reconcile that, kind of not what has been a, more of a push towards non-interventionism to now having this sort of presence in Armenia? Because I know I'm going to be asked that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an issue. I have not, I wrote an article last week that are we going to actually take sovereignty from the Armenian nation again, put it under American control? This is a Christian nation, of further reducing their land. But these aren't military forces. We're talking contractors and employees to operate a railroad, to operate some gas lines and other infrastructure through that region. This is also has a big, I guess, connection to what's going on in the Black Sea with this huge Romanian NATO base they're building, the Ukraine war. It's all of a piece. So it's all about influence in this region. And I think, it's going to take leadership and a determination on the American public not to allow this to become some kind of another forever war. But the Armenians are at risk. I mean, they're at risk of Azeris coming in again. Their government, the Armenian government, is globalist. They're bringing in migrants. They're literally attacking the Christian church, the Orthodox Apostolic Church in Armenia, one of the first Christian churches. And so that's an issue, right? So we'll see what happens, but it's going to take Trump leadership for sure.
All right, let's talk about this one. And I love the pictures. So in preparing for this segment, I got to go through your X account and watch the wonderful videos of you in these beautiful sites. I've never been to Armenia. It looks just amazing. So I would recommend for all in our audience, if you enjoy a tour through history and beautiful architecture, for that alone, if not for the deep details of the story, just go and check out Todd's articles and his X, because it was really nice to go through. Tell us about this attorney, Robert, and what his role would be, Robert Amsterdam.
Yeah, we've been on this story for some time. I've interviewed him many times and met him in D.C. at an event. And he is a Jewish individual, a man, and lives in London. He's had a history of fighting for the underdog and politically repressed overseas. And he's really angry about what's going on in Ukraine, the destruction of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. And so, as people may not know, Zelensky, the regime, is literally destroyed. You have parishioners meeting in the woods because they're scared to meet in the churches. The churches are being burned, taken, turned into museums, stolen. And the Zelensky regime has started a new church, just like the Chinese Communist Party, that is the state official church. And if you don't go to that church, you're in trouble. So they're trying to do the same thing in Armenia and Romania, by the way. And I think, Emerald, we've stumbled onto and we're discovering and illuminating a global conspiracy against the Christian faith. I don't see any other way to look at it, because this is and some of these people doing this are inside the U.S. government. The Victoria Nuland types that started this stuff against the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. So there is a problem. There is a goal to destroy Christianity at its origins, and this the Apostolic Church in Armenia is literally the origin. I mean, it's where the disciples came up and proselytized throughout the region. And these old churches, you're right, are just fantastic.
Look, we've been covering, I'm so glad there's only a handful of us, or just a few of us, who's really been covering this story over the years. So I'm glad to see some focus and movement on it from the Trump administration. I love that you went there in your effort in covering it and bringing it to light. I think our connection is getting a little bit dicey again, Todd. So we appreciate you. Let's touch back in a couple weeks after we know more about the developments of these negotiations and the resulting memorandum of understanding, at least, and where we're headed towards peace. Thanks, Todd.
Sounds good. Thank you. We'll be in Beirut next week, by the way. So we'll bring back to you what we find there. Thank you.
Excellent. Can't wait.
Thank you.
Up next, Trump's taking on debanking. We talked to Dr. John Eastman, who himself found him a victim of debanking, after the break.
Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at nirvantahealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to nirvantahealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally.
One of the hangovers, one of the really bad hangovers from that sort of uniparty that Patrick Deneen talked about is this idea that there is this extremely strong division between the public sector and the private sector. You know, the public sector, there's the necessary evil of government. We want to limit it as much as possible because to the extent that we don't limit it, it's going to do a lot of terrible things. And then you have the private sector, sort of that which comes from spontaneous order. It's organic. It's very Burkean, and we want to let people sort of do as much free exchange within that realm as possible. And in the reality of politics, as I've seen it practiced, the way that lobbyists interact with bureaucrats, interact with corporations,
Promises made, promises kept by President Donald Trump. As you just heard, back in January, Trump spoke to the Davos World Economic Forum and castigated the president of Bank of America for debanking conservative voices. Now the president is following through and using the power of the federal government to force the banks to treat all Americans, regardless of their political views, equally. Oh, but the spineless and corrupt banksters want to play the victims now that they've been called out, like all bullies do. According to them, quote, the Biden regime pressured. It was the Biden fault, right? Pressured Chase and Bank of America to debank President Trump after he left office. A JP Morgan executive said Biden's regulators put the fear of God in you if you did business with people like Donald Trump. Funny how that works, isn't it? They blew up the economy in 2008, blamed it on you because you wanted to own a house, got the government to bail them out and pretended to be the victims. And now they've been caught playing politics with their customers, and they want to blame the previous administration. You know, it's a serious thing that Trump is doing when the New York Times prints a headline making it out like Trump is just throwing a tantrum and punishing the banks for it. We're now joined by senior Claremont fellow and former attorney for President Donald Trump's 2020 election year legal challenge, the great Dr. John Eastman, who Bank of America also debanked. Your thoughts on the new developments?
Well, you know, it was never clear to me whether this was the corporate boardrooms of Bank of America, and I also got debanked by USAA, just playing leftist woke politics, or whether, in fact, banking regulators were breathing down their neck, and they just at some point said, you know, it's not worth the cost of all the administrative effort we have to do to respond to all these banking regulators' inquiries about Eastman's transactions. Did he buy sporting goods from a Dick's Sporting Store or whatever? And they said, it's just not worth it for a small individual account. We'll make a business decision. It was never clear to me which of those it was, or some combination of both. But look, at least with respect to USAA, which is a bank devoted to military members and their families, people who have put the ultimate sacrifice on the line. We were members of USAA because my wife's father fought in the Navy in World War II and in the Marines in Korea. And you would think that if it was banking regulators, that they would have stood up to this, or at least exposed what was going on so that we could stand up to it. But no, they didn't. They capitulated, and that may be too soft a word, because it seems like they were perfectly happy to comply with those regulators' orders. They could have fought back against it, and they should have fought back against it. And what I'm hoping for now is with Trump's new executive order, that this is a thread in a sweater that just starts to unravel the whole regime. I do think banking regulators under Biden were up to their eyeballs in spying without warrants on American citizens and their financial transactions. And these bankers need to be held accountable for going along with that without raising a peep.
You know what? You raised an excellent point. Recall, Dr. Eastman, that an FBI whistleblower revealed that the Bank of America did share banking information of what? Like every person. I'm just going to say, they shared information of people who were in D.C. on J6 with the FBI without a warrant, it sounded like. So they were more than happy to go along with this. And while they say it was the Biden regime, they didn't have to comply. But that's at least one instance that we know of that they willingly complied without pressure, and that was related to J6.
Well, that's right. And on mine, when President Trump called out Bank of America in the Davos speech, they quickly fired back on X and said, we don't do that. And I fired back and I said, oh, pray tell, then why did you debank me? They sent, and they initially claimed that they didn't do that. And then I produced a letter where they debanked me. And the letter had, and people can go back on my X account back in April of 2024. This is all there. I posted up the letter. The letter says, if you want additional information, please call this number. And I called that number, and it's basically a stuff it. We're not giving you any more information, and our decision is final. Goodbye. And I've got the recording of that phone call that we posted up there as well. So the notion that they didn't do this was a lie. And then when they finally got caught having done it, they said, now they're saying, well, the banking regulators did it, or there are other reasons. And we can't talk about that because it invades Eastman's privacy. Now, USAA said that, one of my supporters who was a USAA member, and they wanted to find out what went on. And USAA said, we can't tell you, we could tell Eastman, but it's privacy. So I called them and said, okay, you told this guy, you could tell me. And for a month and a half, we went around and around and around. They finally said, oh, we can't tell you either. So they refused to tell me why they debanked me. Certainly not, overdraws or anything like that, nothing like that. It's either my politics or they got tired of dealing with regulators who were unconstitutionally searching through my transactions to see if they could find something to pin on me.
It looks like we saw a draft for the executive order that President Trump could sign. It's not confirmed, but if it's one that would be retroactive. So there would be retroactive action on banks that went after, like you, Dr. Eastman. Yeah. Is that how it needs to be handled? And is that constitutional?
Well, breaking news. We're no longer in draft. It came out yesterday. So we now have the executive order, and it's telling the banks that they're going to start being treated like a utility, that they cannot deprive people of access to financial services for political reasons. And by the way, a year ago, there were 7 or 8 or 13, I forget the number, states attorneys general that had served subpoenas on the banks because in some states, political discrimination is as illegal as racial or gender discrimination. And so in those states, what was going on here is a crime. And so all of this is being investigated. And the fact that it's now being investigated at the federal level means we're going to start looking at the federal regulators as well to find out what kind of collusive arrangement the federal regulators were having with these banks to turn over basic financial private data on American citizens without warrants to people that were using it to weaponize our law enforcement agencies.
So then, given that there's now, states investigations, and then there's now obviously something at the federal level, does that mean that people who were victims of this debanking can sue the banks? Will this then involve litigation, civil litigation?
Well, it's unclear how this is going to play out. One of the things that the executive order says is that they have to reach out to anybody they debanked and offer to put them back in good stead with them. What are the damages? It took me a week to move all of my accounts to redo all the automatic payments. So I've got some time invested in it. And I'm probably not going back to Bank of America.
I was going to say, when
what
they call you and reach out, are you going to do business with them again, Dr. Eastman?
Yeah. I'll say, well, it depends on how many zeros are after the number you're going to begin my account with before I'll begin. But no, what went on is it was more harassment from the banking side.
Yeah.
I mean, I found another bank. Old Glory Bank was more than happy to take me on and actually made me part of their marketing campaign. But I want to get deeper. I want the executive order to unravel what the banking regulators were doing, because that's part of the overall weaponization that did occur under Biden. Now, I'm not willing to let the bankers off the hook because, oh, no, we just, they made us do it. I'm sorry. They could have told me that they was banking regulators that were doing this. They could have given me name and chapter and verse of who was doing it so I could then pursue the illegal conduct by those regulators. They didn't do any of that. So they are, if not equally culpable, at least culpable in a large degree here for what went on, in my view.
Yeah, they are. Dr. Eastman, positive direction, positive news. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Emerald. Take care. Good to see you.
That's it for me. DC Live is next, and that's the absolute truth.